All right, let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Awesome. Okay, so on this is the B2B side. So this is the business side where you can come in and you can look at your analytics, get your overall information as far as how many assessments you have going, how many gigs you have going, what the analytics are for those assessments and gigs, and get the overall view of everything that's going on that you guys are, need to put out there. So as an example, you can see here, I can click here, I can get the repos from my GitHub. We have a Snapbrillia GitHub application that you connect, so it gives us access. And you can come here and you can select whichever repo that you want to work off of or have the bounty created off of, or the gig. You click next, you give it information. So you could say React navbar needs to be responsive. As just an example, you can go through, you can give it a description of exactly what you need to have done. We would like to have navbar built with bootstrap and responsive. And then you can click here, you can underline, click here, you can bold, stuff like that. Let's see, submission requirements. It could be something along the lines of to compile successfully and let's see, include CSS, and then
yeah,
of
so
course,
what James is doing right now is setting up the bounty. If you're hiring.
Creating the gig that will be on the consumer side for people to pick up and start working with. So important links that could be, Snapbrillia.com or anything that they need to reference, any specifics. So you could do that. You can also do whatever the case may be. Then you can have team only or open to all. You have accept all or needs approval. So what this means is if you require them to have a team of people, you can set the gig up that way. And this is for the mentee and mentor model, right? So it would be a mentor and then you would have a team of mentees working on it. So if you have team only, then that means only mentors and mentees can join and be a part of that gig. And if you have open to all, anyone, you could do it as individuals or you can do it as a mentor or as a mentee. And then for the permission side, we have accept all or need approval. So accept all basically just means it's permissionless. Like as soon as they express interest, they can get started working on it. Need approval is, something if you say, for example, need to have them, redo an entire database or do something, very particular on the blockchain. You want to make sure that they have the skills and you're not wasting their time, they're not wasting their time, so on and so forth. You can have the needs approval section selected, which means when they apply or express interest, then you can look at their resume, you can look at their on-chain reputation, you can look at their LinkedIn or whatever they have connected, so you can get a better sense of who they are, and then you can approve or deny them. Okay, and then for the time estimation, we have 40, 60, 80, or you can select other and say it's going to take about 2 hours. And for the reward amount, we'll just say it's $100. And then we can add the gig. Then you'll notice here, it goes straight to selecting your payment method. And then from there, we can purchase, make sure it goes through correctly. And then at that point, once it's confirmed, it is now live on the B2C side, and they will be able to start working on your gig. Any questions so far?
What do you mean by B2C side, James?
So that is the consumer side. So the average everyday user. So the business side obviously is strictly just for the businesses to go in and create their gigs or their assessments, where the consumer side, which I'm going to bring up here in just a second, is going to be what the developers or anybody else that's coming to Snapbrillia, they're going to explore the different gigs, the grants, and everything else that they can do on the site. Okay. Any other questions before moving forward? All right. Just a second. I'm going to bring up the consumer side of things.
James, did you see there's a question in the chat?
I did not, but I'm trying to pull it up now.
Ashton asks, is this related to or going to be connected to deep work?
No.
Yeah, no. Good question, Ashton. So D-Work is essentially also a task tool, project management tool, where I think Catalyst Swarm and other town halls are using to post like Gimbal bounties and sometimes ADA bounties. They are not focused on development, versus for us, we are only focused on open source or just development projects, and proactively connect those projects and teams with teams of senior and junior developers to work on their GitHub issues or whatever they need to get done, as long as they can incentivize it with ADA or FIDE at this moment. And we're going to be adding, support for hundreds of different currencies, cryptocurrencies, by end of next month. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, any other questions?
Ashton, you also asked, is there a way to see what open source license and contributed code will go under? Can you elaborate on that? You mean like the bounties and gigs that people post on a platform, right? Each of those projects in the process of setting things up, all they need to do is just to integrate our GitHub app. We would be able to pull all the repositories and then just pick a specific one or two repositories to see which ones they want to, post a bounty on. Each of those repositories will have a link that you can open and see a license that they're working under. I hope that answers your question. Including Snapbrillia, we have all the licensing there, right? Back to you, James.
All right, thank you. So this is the consumer side. So when they come in, they're looking to see what gigs are currently available. So you can easily click here. You can view the gig that I just created. Right, so you can see what needs to happen. You see the description, the submission requirements, the acceptance criteria, and any important links that are required. You can view it on GitHub. You can express interest as a mentor, as a mentee, or as an individual. Okay, so for this use case, we'll do it as an individual. You'll be able to read what it means to be an individual, contributor. You can select what you want to. You can upload your resume if you don't have one connected. You can connect your linked accounts, and then you can save and continue from there. Once you have successfully done that.
Are you sharing screen, James? Oh yeah.
Can you not see my screen?
I can't. I just had the cameras on. Over it.
All right. let's see here, and then I can go here and I can go. All right, well, I'll do it this way. So this is the email that you would receive. And you can click here. Of course, I just went through this. Oh, I know what the problem is. Just a second. I got to switch back.
While you're doing that, James, I put the link for our bounty posters and projects on Teams to actually go ahead and start posting bounties. The early access for the Catalyst community starts tomorrow. Actually, sometimes later today, we're going to deploy this on Prod. The business.snapbrillia.com. You can go ahead and sign up if you want to. And then we are actually officially launching on Friday. So if you guys are curious, go to the chat.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. And then, so once you receive that email, you can get started. As you can see here, we have the EEO form, so we can gather information that will go along with those analytic pieces. And then once you submit everything, we then save that, and then it's going to put you straight into your coding environment. And it's going to pre-build everything for you. And then as you can see here, you can also share this. And I will share that with you, Nan, if you want to jump onto it.
Yeah, Slack.
Yep. So what's nice about this is, like I said, it goes through, completes everything for you. It's even going to give you the option. You can open the preview in another window, or you can, or inside this window, or you can open the browser in another window. So as you can see here, you can open it here. And if you go to source, go to app.component, you now have the code here, which we can start making changes to depending on what the gig is that they are requiring, right? So Nan, if you want to type something in this area here.
Yeah, give me a second. It's still opening the workspace for me. So maybe a minute or two.
All right, not a problem. But as you can see, it loaded everything up. You can also click here. And if you do want to open it up in another browser window, you can. So now you can do all the work here, and you can come back here and you can check it as well. But just to kind of give you guys save that, come over here, refresh, and there it is.
Awesome. I'm in. Where do you want me to go, James?
If you go to app and then app.component.html on line 344.
Source app component, line 44.
344.
344. Gotcha. Okay.
So you'll be able to watch. It'll show him. It'll show what he's typing in over here. And then he can backspace all that out and delete everything here. And you'll see that as well.
There you go. And this is me typing. Needs my face.
Yeah, so everything you see here is everything that he put in. So this is a great tool for mentorship, right? So if you guys are working collaboratively together and they're trying to understand how something works, you can go through and you can actually code together, and they can watch what you're doing and get a better understanding, right? And then they can do changes, they can make change, they can try things, and if it doesn't work, then all of a sudden at that point they can the mentor will be able to jump in and say, oh, you just need to do this and change here and stuff like that. But this is the IDE side of things.
As a terminal, it has source control if you want to show up the source control. So for those of you that, want to see like changes, what other team members have done, and so on, it's very simple, straightforward. So people can post a bounty. We drive senior developers. We have partners with universities. EBU wants to send all of their Haskell Plutus graduates from their courses to this. We have a couple of projects that are already going to post bounty starting on Friday. I have onboarding calls with them. And then we're going to match people together. They can go in, start coding, submit the pull requests or commits. And you as a team member or project leader, right? All you do is you review pull requests, accept, reject, and then you award the bounty.
Yeah. Yes, so that is in the plan, Patrick, as well. But the other nice thing about the other nice part about doing it this way, doing it all within browser, you don't have to worry about them having your source code on their machine. B, we can compile it automatically, so they don't have to, they don't have to go through, they don't have to, make changes to their environment. They don't have to make changes to their computer. They don't have to like go through any kind of lengthy setup process. We'll automatically do that for them. But also along the way, if you put in your repo, then at that point, anytime that they make any changes, you see everything within your GitHub that they're doing. You can approve it. We link to it, everything else. Any other questions? Okay, so then I am going to hop back to the other side. Obviously, this would be a lot easier once we have everything deployed. So Patrick, the really nice thing about that is it can be done automatically. We have it built that way. It doesn't matter if your instance is that part or not, is part of that or not.
What was the question, James?
So perhaps not many people do know how much or how powerful, hold on.
The IDE is.
Yeah, the IDE. So yeah, so perhaps a guide.
I think you can, what you can do, James, I don't know if it's been scheduled to demo today, but you guys can demo what you guys demo for IOHK funded proposal between you and Frank with the Plutus Haskell environment, because people know how painful that is.
Yeah, Frank, are you on?
Yeah, he's on.
Okay.
Yeah, James on.
All right, we'll jump into that here in just here. I'll actually get it started so we can jump straight into that as soon as you're up and ready. So I'll send you a link here in just a minute. So the other part of this obviously is grants, right? So you can go through, you can create a grant. And then this is the other side of the grants, right? So I want to add this to my cart. As you can see, it's been updated here. I can then select how I'm going to pay for it. And then I can put in a total of what I want to do. And there you go. Now you can see I've made a purchase amount there. And then that would be added here. Okay. So Frank, sending it over to you now.
Yep, sounds good. And also just to address Ashton's question a little further. Yeah, so shell scripting, without a doubt. This Gitpod instance is not set up with Cardano CLI, just FYI. However, we can provision a Gitpod instance to basically have that pre-installed. That might be actually a fun community, like collaborative task we can work on together if you're interested. So yeah, just to clarify, because I know, Ashton, you're referencing Cardano CLI here for an NFT drop, and that is without a doubt facilitatable. We just have to provision the Gitpod instance to basically have Cardano CLI installed and up and running. Hopefully that sheds light on your question a little bit. But also, yeah, I'm happy to show like a little bit further functionality into, like, you know, for instance, yeah, cool. Into, you know, like running something with like, for instance, like a GHC compiler, and just tapping into some functionality right in Gitpod instance. We can spin up like a new, and for the members of the Web3 team here, I think you'll enjoy this as well. Just like a very simple Haskell file. And you know, it's cool. A lot of members of our Web3 team went through the Plutus Pioneer program together, and some members are still going through it. They're reviewing, you know, replaying multiple lectures many times, and also learning Haskell in parallel. So I think you guys will enjoy this. But yeah, James, I'm not sure. Do you have a link?
I just sent it to you. I sent you the wrong one first.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Apologies. But as you can see right now, it's going through and setting up next. Automatically, haven't had to do anything yet.
Yeah, and so essentially what this does is it set up all the prerequisites and requirements without the user needing to know how to actually set it up. So this saves time for a lot of senior developers to always set up environments, and allows junior devs to jump in and start working alongside with him. The first load may take a little bit longer, right, on setup, but once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, it's already ready. Yeah,
it's already ready. Wow, cool.
Okay, so Frank, just let me know whenever it loads for you.
Yeah, I see it on my side. Would you like me to share screen, or?
No, you can do, if you just want to do everything in the first one, and we'll just follow along.
Got it. Okay, that's actually more impactful, I think. For people on the call, like literally, I'm just opening this up where I'm at. And James is showing you his hands. Let me see. Let me see if you guys can. Can you guys see this or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we can actually let's this is version. Yeah, so we can check. So Nix 2.9.2 is installed on this instance. I think, okay. So yeah, we can do just like a very simple demo here. We can install GHC. Which is a Haskell compiler. And this should go relatively quickly. And actually, in the meantime, James, I'm opening another window here. I'm not sure if you can see this. It's the bash window on the bottom. Actually, let me verify if this is. It might be. Oh, it is complete. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm in that first window again.
Okay.
So we have 8.8.4 of GHC here. So something we can do is just add like a simple Haskell file. You can see it pop up here in your file pane. This is Visual Studio Code. And we can just vim into this, just something simple. Just do a very simple IO monad, and Web3 team that is here, I know you guys get a kick out of this.
Go ahead.
This is gonna be like a very simple. That simply prints out. I'm getting a slight echo here. I'm not sure if that's on my side, but just gonna print out hello Catalyst. If we cat this file, we can see it's written here. We can also check up in our little file pane here. So now we can actually run this through a compiler. So we've compiled this file here through GHC. We can check the type, for instance, of main. We can see that we return an IO monad. And then if we run just this simple, we run main, it's gonna print this line out, hello Catalyst. And yeah, I think this is just a brief demo to show like how efficient I was able to just spin this up, and this is all remote. I just pulled this up in my browser. James can see what I'm doing. Yep, James just ran the program again. But it enables just like lightning efficient collaboration with team members, especially if you pre-configure an environment for your specific stack. And that's what James and the ID team are doing a great job at, is pre-configuring these stacks for popular use cases that would facilitate different types of bounties that would require a foundational stack to complete, so that you can just jump right into the environment and start coding. And I think that's probably, yeah.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Frank. So going back to here, we have, like I said, the grant proposal side. As you can see, I already went through and created a grant. And then people would be able to add to cart, and they would be able to select how much they wanted to contribute. They can confirm everything, they can remove, or they can purchase. And then you would see everything go through.
Wow. Round of applause, everybody. Super impressive. Thank you so much for showing us, showing us. Who else wants to demo? Is there anything else from James and Frank, from your team, James, or are we moving on to a different team?
It's always cool to show off the IDE stuff, but we can save that for another day. Or
for
later,
sure. Well,
maybe.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience for James or Frank at this time? If not, please field them in. Oh, Rocky1 asked, is it Marlowe compatible? And the answer is?
I already responded in chat, but yes, we already have a Marlowe instance already created.
Awesome. So what do we support today? Of course, like most JavaScript, MERN stack, all that is done, right? About 60 different frameworks. We just needed to build a custom one for Plutus, Marlowe, of course, Haskell. Cardano JS SDK is supported.
Yep.
How about Prism? Is that supported?
So Prism is the one I am currently working on right now to get finalized.
Okay, awesome.
You have everything else already ready to go.
So pretty much the standard Cardano tech stack is like anyone on Cardano, any project, even you want to post a bounty and start working on it yourself to use the ID yourself and mentor other people to bring them to build on your open source projects. Would that be possible with this?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, James. Frank, Beatrice, who wants to go next?
I just want to add, James already go with everything because he will, we are working just together. So that's I was talking. There's one question earlier about the repo. So I already give the answer here. So what we are doing, we make sure that everything is secure in every way because there's information, user information, the wallet and bank account. So we make sure we set up every security. We put 2FA, we put if the, for example, the screen stay inactive, we just sign out for automatically sign out. We make sure that everywhere we secure them in order to have for the user to have this piece that their code will not go somewhere else. And that's why also we make sure that we put the permission, because with the permission also that's another way to check the person that's gonna come to work on your code. So that's why we include the permission. So we make, and also what I like on it, later on we will also be able to work with the user if they want to do a custom thing. So with the concierge, we can help building with that. So that's why it is something that we're working on it. And I'm so pleased to show you what we accomplished. That's it. That's what I want to add.
Awesome. Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, James. Someone asked me, how did the Snapbrillia game came about? I will save that question to the end. But Frank, popcorn to you and your team. You guys ready?
Yeah, thank you, Ninh. So we're actually going to go across two teams here. We're going to go across both SSI and Web3. So just to give you guys a background into our motivations and our goals on both of these sides. On the SSI side, essentially, we're trying to provide the opportunity for people to earn verifiable credentials. These are proofs that you've participated in a bounty, that you've completed a bounty, that you have provided mentorship to mentees, that you were a mentee in a mentorship flow with respect to a bounty, and that you voted in a quadratic voting and funding, what we call a fund, but you could sometimes refer to as elections or rounds. All of this culminates in what is referred to as a proof of reputation. And what's cool about what we're doing is, I think you hear a lot of people talk about proof of identity in the same breath as proof of reputation. Like this idea that in the future, like how do you get past the pain points of like KYC authentication flows, for example? There are some creative solutions to this that are of varying levels of intensity, but one pretty cool kind of indirect, I think, benefit of this business model that we're putting forth is that in participating as a mentor or a mentee, you are going through a human-to-human interaction throughout the duration of a bounty. So indirectly, this is almost like a peripheral proof of identity, if you will. The reason this is significant is that as we move towards combining these systems, and when I say these systems, I mean the proof of reputation and proof of identity research with voting systems. I mentioned a quadratic voting and funding, like election or fund, like that is being facilitated through Snapbrillia as well. We'll get into that in a moment on the Web3 side. But SSI provides this unique defense mechanism against two types of attack vectors, tyranny of the majority, and then a variety of Sybil attack vectors. And that's pretty cool. Like we feel like we have a test bed here to provide some meaningful evidence for or against these types of defense mechanisms. And these are being wrapped into a white paper we're working on with members of the Catalyst and IOG community. So hopefully we'll be able to publish this. Our goal is within the next 3 months. So look for that. So on the SSI side, we started with Hyperledger Aries, and we're implementing a multi-tenant Occupy distro. We participated with JFF's Plugfest, which essentially they asked us to implement an OBV3 badge specification with JSON-LD credentials. So that was kind of like our step towards the deeper realm of, and I know I think Lance is here from Roots ID, the deeper realm of like credential types and the implications of credential types and interoperability broadly, because we love the Roots ID project, we love the Proof Space project, and we think the Italoprism research is brilliant so far. A question that kept coming up early on in the SSI talks was, or there were two questions. One was, what about if someone like loses their wallet? Like, do they lose their reputation? And that's still a concern. Like the idea of backup and like disaster recovery services for SSI wallets that may be edge or cold or like on an app like ProofSpace and soon to be Roots ID, because I know you guys are launching your Android wallet pretty soon, is a deep question. And like if you follow that line of thought deep enough, you get to this question of, okay, well, is it possible to facilitate some recovery option that is akin to like a custodial wallet? So this idea of custodial wallets that can be exported into an edge wallet or a cold wallet is something we've been really fascinated by. We actually do have a prototype with our MVP of this setup. It's a multi-tenant Occupy distro, as mentioned, that can support, any wallet you bring to us. We will, assuming that you're operating within the, that your wallet supports the JSON-LD format or the Indy credential type, and we'll get into the ZK predicate stuff a little later. But as long as you're interoperable with that spec, we're adapting the OBV3 badge spec, which is another inheritance from W3C specs for these types of credentials to basically denote a proof of reputation as a badge. Then we can interoperate. But if you do not have a wallet, or you're intimidated, or you're brand new to this space, and that would be something that would deter you from operating within a platform like Snapbrillia, then we have a custodial SSI use case here. It's essentially a custodial credential store. And at any moment, you can export that wallet out to a wallet that you pick up at some point that is without a doubt more secure. We went through great lengths to make this as secure as possible, and we won't go deeply into the network architecture we have today, but very soon. The reason I bring this up is because there's a series of pathways with the credential types you're working with. So JSON-LD, a little bit more limited than Indy credential types, a little bit more limited than these types of like CL signatures that can be applied to claims on attributes from, there's a BBS plus signature type or credential type that we're looking into right now. And then on the ZK side, which is zero knowledge proof or predicate, there's a collection of these credential types we're starting to experiment with, but the trick is to have this be interoperable long-term across at least, our goal is Hyperledger, Aries, and basically the broader Hyperledger community of supported wallets, and then the Prism community and their supported wallets. So that technically it wouldn't matter if you had one or the other coming to Snapbrillia. We could facilitate an issuance of a verified credential for your activity on our platform. This is significant for many reasons, but just to highlight a couple for the advanced flows, because I know do want to be conscious of time. The idea of these CL signatures for these ZK predicate flows, we're looking into two use cases, one for private bounties. So say there's a predicate on, a pre-qualification for a candidate to participate with a bounty. This can be facilitated with such a flow on the SSI side. Likewise, if there is a pre-qualification for a predicate on a job posting, because we may eventually get into proactive recruitment for employment, then this is another great use case. This can be applied outward to anything like, attending a university, or applying for some program that has their own specifications on pre-qualification. So there's a lot of repercussions that will come from this research, but I do want to highlight, just in the scope of Snapbrillia, these are the two main business use cases we're kind of operating within the confines of. So with that, I think we can just launch into a preliminary demo. So Dennis Gitas is one of our senior engineers from the data science team here. And he has been doing great work with understanding Hyperledger areas and helping us implement basically our first MVP scope custodial credential store flow in architecture. So Dennis, if you're on, would you like to present any part of that flow with the flow chart you put together?
Yeah, sure. So hey guys, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is our solution to custodial wallets and credentials. So what I have in front of me here is going to be 3 endpoints, which the front end team, the dev team, will be able to ping. The first endpoint will be registration, which basically just sets up a wallet for the potential user and creates a dig. And then the second endpoint will be the actual issue credential flow. So this all inside the box is what's happening behind the scenes, but all the front end team all they have to do is just ping the single endpoint, and they'll be able to issue a credential to that user. So if we look just more in depth here, we have 2 sides of this. We have the Snapbrillia side, which is the issuer wallet, and we have the holder wallet for the user. And it's basically a back and forth dance between the 2 wallets, and ends with the user storing their credential in their wallet. And then finally, we just have a simple fetch credential endpoint for the user to display all their credentials. And right now, we're currently in the process of transposing all this into code, which we then will which then we will save the different data points we need and have this all be automated. So the front end developers can just simply ping these 3 endpoints, and all of this will be done automatically in the backend.
Yep, Dennis, awesome demo. Thank you so much. And just for the community, like, the nuance here is that we're building an API middleware. So on the Hyperledger area side, this is an API middleware between our interface, our application layer, and our Occupy environment, which is on a separate instance. We have a lot of, we're very cognizant of the security kind of advantages of a cloud infrastructure like AWS. So things like locking down a private VPC, port forwarding, VPC peering, like encryption in transit and at rest with best practice cipher suites. These are all methods to basically make this as secure as possible for our users. But also in a custodial use case, the scope is limited to Snapbrillia. So we would not allow users to upload credentials from their Edge wallet or Cold wallet into our Snapbrillia wallet yet. That may be a future use case. For now, this is simply to house the credentials for you, issue them for you, take care of the DID process, the subwallet creation in the multi-tenant flow for you, so that you can just enjoy the platform. it's like a baby step towards understanding the benefits of these systems. And then when you're ready, you can export out and then carry that with you to hopefully a variety of platforms in the future. Likewise, on the Prism side, the Roots team did a great job with the Wall CLI utility. So there's a custodial use case in that you can have an API middleware interacting, like basically invoking subcommands that are interacting with Wall CLI on behalf of a remote user. So again, these are baby steps towards two use cases as mentioned: backup, recovery for these wallet solutions, which is another line of research, but also just helping welcome people into this world for the first time, because we anticipate many people coming onto the platform, at least for us, are not crypto native, or they haven't heard these concepts before. And what we don't want to happen is we don't want them to be turned away or deterred from participating. So again, it's just a baby step facilitation towards that deeper vision of, in the future, eventually, the majority of people will likely have their own wallets, and they'll come to these platforms with a variety of their credentials. And ideally, everyone will be interoperable with the same specifications across credential types. And for instance, in our case, OBV3 has a pretty, has a lot of momentum, but there is, yeah, it is a story that's unfolding day by day. Also, by the way, Lance from Roots ID, I love your guys' updates that you share on YouTube as well. So I would advise everyone here to check out Roots ID's YouTube channel as well for deeper kind of industry-wide updates on these credential types and interoperability. This movement is a lot of projects collaborating across industries. But yeah, I think that concludes our SSI demo. So I think we can transition into the Web3 demo that we have prepared.
Give me one second, Frank. I'm going to demo something on the SSI side as well.
Yeah.
From our website itself. So explore.snapbrillia.com is open to exploring. Okay. We currently have testing data there because we are launching in early access tomorrow and official on Friday. But you can see, if I go back and exit out of this, just go. And after you log in, go to account, you'll be able to, you'll have a DID automatically generated for you as part of the custodial SSI and DID wallet that Frank was talking about. But we do have minimal disclosure. So here people would be able to customize like what they want to show in their on-chain reputation when they're applying for bounties, or applying to get funding and so on, right? And showcase the different grants and bounties that they were part of, or hide them, right? We build all of this with privacy in mind. The zero knowledge proofs and predicates functionality will be ready in about a week. So on Aries, and once Untitled Prism is available on mainnet, then we will migrate almost all of this to Aries, to Prism in about a month or two when it is available on mainnet for us as their first commercial partner to have everything on Prism. Popcorn, back to you, Frank.
Yeah, that was a great visual representation of what selective disclosure looks like, and the way we facilitate that is the Indie credential type. For anyone on the call curious. So yeah, now I think, unless there aren't any, are there any further questions on the SSI side?
It looks like Victor asked a question. Who is the verifier? ? Snapbrillia wallet as well? ?
Yeah, so we're the issuer, and indirectly in this specific use case, we're also we're the initial verifier. However, if you're,
companies
if you're
that are doing the bounties are verifiers as well.
Yeah, if you're in the Snapbrillia ecosystem, then you would have this situation where private bounties or later on job postings, these would be situations where there'd be there'd be a request from a verifier, and that would be the business client technically. But yeah, that's within the Snapbrillia scope. Outside the Snapbrillia scope, like if you travel to apply for a job elsewhere with our credentials that we've issued as some sort of proof of reputation for your experience with JavaScript or another language or something along these lines, then you know, that verifier would basically, in that model, be outside of our initial scope, even though those credentials are interoperable. So you can at that point transfer between your wallets, go apply for a job or something elsewhere, etc. But yeah, good question. And I think now we can probably hop to the Web3 side. So we have some of our senior engineers here who've done a great job with architecting a quadratic voting and funding system that is Cardano native. So Kayan Mascoot from our team, would you like to, actually, I think Sean Zhang. So Sean from our team, would you like to start with the reward distribution demo?
Yeah. I'll share my screen. So what I just done was really similar to what James just showed you guys before, but instead, the user will be posting the bounty up in ADA and distributing the word in ADA as well. So I'll come here, add a bounty, select a repository. I'll do this, and put in the necessary information. I'll put React bounty, create a button, and pull request accepted. No links, and then I'll just do team only, need approval. I'll put 2 here, and then I'll put the total ADA amount that this reward will be. So I'll just put 10, and then the user is going to come here and click on add bounty, and then I have my Nami wallet connected, so it's going to pop up. This is going to pop up, and it's going to ask you to sign the transaction. And we also take a 10% platform fee, so this is why it's 11 ADA instead of 10. So I'll click on sign. And once I've successfully signed the bounty has been created. I can come here and I'm gonna add someone here. So I'm gonna add Sam Punk, put in his email. And invite him. So once you've invited them, you can click on their profile. And in their profile, you can see their code commits and their recent activities. But yep, and then you can also come here, and if you feel like this person has completed it, you can click on complete and distribute the reward. We stored the candidate's public key address in our database, but for this demo, I'm just demo my own wallet. And this flow is actually not the final flow. When the user felt like someone has completed a bounty, he's gonna come here and click a button, and then whoever's completed a bounty on his own interface, he can select either get this bounty or in ADA, Solana, Ethereum, or their bank account. So let's see if it's been successfully updated. Yep, and I've gotten the 10 ADA reward. So yeah, the flow is not final, like I said, but I just want to show you guys some ADA flowing around. So yep. Stop my screen.
Yeah, Sean, awesome demo. And hopefully that provides some reassurance for you out there, for all of the developers out there who are wondering, how do you get rewards? You can utilize your preferred crypto wallet. We mentioned this demo was with Nami in particular, but Sean also mentioned, and this is important to point out, that if you have a MetaMask wallet or you prefer to be reimbursed in some ERC20 token on the Ethereum side, or you have a Solana wallet, you can still participate with Snapbrillia, and we can facilitate this escrow logic on your behalf. So we are promoting interoperability.
I was going to say, don't forget, Frank. We also do cold hard cash as well.
Yeah, no, just about to get, like Sean mentioned, bank account too. So literally, if you just prefer, you know, like a direct deposit type situation, very cool, very cool. It's not like the barrier to entry is like a hard limitation on this is crypto only. But for people who enjoy the crypto side, like this is for you. And as James mentioned, if you don't enjoy the crypto side, it's also for you. So yeah, I think now we can get into the quadratic voting and funding logic, which is really complicated in a good way, because we essentially meet just for the community. We have these workshops on the Web3 side Monday through Saturday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Anyone is welcome to join, by the way, and chat with our team of engineers. But we started from pretty much the PPP and square one, and we've built up a variety of permutations of architectures that we feel like make this possible in reality for like a production use case. And I say that because it's not as simple as it may sound with the UTXO model as it's taught in the PPP. And I'll just transition to Kayan Mascoot, who can speak to this in more depth, but it's a long journey run, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on what Kayan presents, because he has a really nice flowchart prepared. So Kayan, if you're on the call, please feel free to proceed.
Right. Can you hear me, Frank? Hello.
We hear you, Kayan. It's a little bit quiet, but we can.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Is the voice a bit better? Or is it quiet still?
We cannot see your screen. Are you sharing something? Not yet, right?
Okay.
Thanks for being here, Kayan.
Okay. Sure. Happy to be here. Okay. Okay. I'm going to start with the. First of all, this is the legend of this diagram to better paint the picture of what we are going to talk about. These dashed squares represent a transaction, and in the Cardano network, a transaction is the only way that you can interact with the chain. You can only construct transactions and submit them to the chain. That's the only way you can interact with any smart contract. A UTXO is born out of a transaction and basically dies by being consumed in another transaction. A UTXO carries information like how much money is stored in that UTXO. A UTXO may carry a datum or may not. It's just an arbitrary piece of data. And with these rectangles, we're representing which address a UTXO is sitting at. So with that, we can start with the standard flow of any smart contract on Cardano. So the genesis transaction, if you will, starts with minting of in our model, we have a key holder that is responsible for distributing the funds. So in this architecture, we're not allowing a decentralized distribution of the funds. The donations and contributions are all decentralized, but when it comes to distribution of the funds, it has to be signed by the key holder. So the key holder starts the funding round, mints an authentication token that sits at the script address. So that because The reason for that is that anyone can send the UTXO to the script address. There is no mechanism to prevent that. So this authentication token provides the validation in a way that the UTXO that you are consuming belongs, is the authentic one. So the datum that carries in that UTXO is the real one. This is the distinction. So, no one can just send a random datum to the script and claim that that is the current state of the contract. So with this model, if someone wants to submit a project, register a project, they have to consume the authentic UTXO of the script. And with that, they have to pay a registration fee. This is why there is a change output, because they have to send some ADA here. And after this transaction, the datum of the script updates and registers the project on the datum. And as you can see, for the second project to register on the contract, they have to wait for the conclusion of this first transaction. So the new UTXO becomes available for spending. So this is an example scenario of how a contract can grow and develop over time. So we have 2 projects so far. Someone can donate to one of the projects. And for the next donor, they have to wait for the donation transaction to complete so that they can consume the updated datum of the contract. And it goes on. And for example, someone has tried to contribute to the prize pool of the funding round, and it simply goes on until it reaches the distribution phase of the transaction, which has to be signed by the key holder. The key holder may get some percentage of the prizes as a platform fee, or and they also have to spend some ADA to initiate the fund. So there is some extra money in the contract. So the presence of key holder, whether they charge a fee or not, is somewhat necessary here. And the prizes are distributed between the participants, between the different projects who registered on the contract. So to address this issue of possibly slow interaction with the network, we came up with this multi-UTXO approach. So instead of minting a single UTXO at the initiation phase of the contract, we are minting multiple UTXOs, each of them having a separate datum of their own. And as you can see, multiple transactions can happen simultaneously, independent of each other. So as you can see, project A is registering, is getting registered here separately from project B, for example. And there are someone can contribute to the prize pool independent of the other UTXOs. One limitation that we have kept here is that the UTXO whenever a donor decides to donate to a specific project, they have to consume the correct UTXO. So the UTXO should carry it. So the project should already be registered on that UTXO. But the primary reason for this is to do not complicate the on-chain validator any further, because the more complex the on-chain logic becomes, the higher the transaction fees are going to be. So we are leaving this part to the off-chain code, because if you try to donate to a project that's not present on the UTXO, the transaction simply fails. So this is reasonable to do off-chain and does not compromise decentralization. Yes, and you can see that how a project can grow over time and develop over time. And the final piece is this distribution transaction that consumes all the UTXOs of the contract. And if you're wondering how the contract is aware of how many UTXOs should be consumed at this transaction, the information is present in the minting transaction, because it is specified here how many tokens, authentication tokens, are minted here. So the contract is aware of how many UTXOs are available and how much should be consumed in order to have a valid transaction at the distribution. And similar to the previous model, the money is distributed according to the quadratic logic between different participants. And we have this model already on chain, and I can show you some of the code that we have utilized to interact with the contract. And if you are a Pluto's developer, you know that the primary pain point at the moment is the off-chain code, off-chain part of the interaction. So far we have developed this CLI application for our endeavors, which allows us to generate different datums and different redeemer files so that we can construct a transaction, different transactions with Cardano CLI. So this is the help text from our custom application, which allows different interactions. As you can see, these are the primary interactions. So if you want to submit a project, you can call this endpoint, donate to a project, contribute to the prize pool. And there are also obviously some other utility functionalities, like as I mentioned, we have to check whether the UTXO we are trying to consume for a donation includes that project, right? So this endpoint of the CLI application allows us to check. So we provide it with the datum, and the application tells us whether that datum contains the target project. This one tells us how, shows us a pretty and readable version of the provided datum because it's a JSON and it's a very generic JSON. Yes. The datums of our contract are manageable, and that's a very important part. So if different UTXOs, different datums, they are living simultaneously, but at the distribution stage, they have to be merged together. And this is possible because of our modeling. So because each interaction with the contract is basically append only, so we can, with guarantee, merge them together. And this is what this endpoint of the contract, this application does. So I can, each of these have different, I can perhaps show one of the other help texts. Yes. It takes a list of the datum JSON values and just merge them together and returns another JSON. That is the result of merging all this together. All right. With that, I think I can briefly go over the on-chain code. Perhaps some of you might find that interesting. This is the primary part of the validator, as you can see. Based on the combination of the datum that's being consumed and the redeemer action, we perform different logics. And as you can see, it requires the fund to be in progress and not closed for each interaction. One thing that you may notice is that the distribution endpoint is not really dependent on a singular datum, because what matters is that the datum should all be combined into a single one, and this happens in the logic itself. I might be getting into too much detail here. But before I continue, I am open to questions.
There's a question in the chat, Kayan.
I'm reading thank you.
Ashton asks, is this being proposed, presented as an alternative to how voting currently works in Catalyst? Specific Catalyst, no. that is not the case. This is presented as in how funding and matching and voting will happen on our platform, Snapbrillia. Down the road, however, Ashton, I'm going to put a link to our Fund 9 proposal, which can be considered, which we are building out. And this is the pro voting and identity for DAOs. If Catalyst would like to use this to enable quadratic voting on some of the challenges, some of the public goods challenges like open source or climate or others, they could, but the delivery for that one is in March. And of course, we're building this open source and partnering with the amazing people at ADAO to and the whole Cardano DAO Alliance to be able to offer this for any DAO out there that would like to participate and adopt the governance systems beyond 1 ADA, 1 vote, maybe 1 person, 1 vote, or 1 reputation point, 1 vote that's meritocratic, or plural quadratic voting with decentralized Sybil resistance. There's 3 layers. There's identity layer, there's reputation layer, and as well as the governance C Sybil resistance layer. Another question is, I hope that answers your second question. Is down the road, if the objective is to upgrade Catalyst's own voting system with this, would it be possible? Yes, it is. Please vote for the F9 proposal that we have. Finally, is there an equivalent to the phrase 1 ADA 1 vote that would describe how QEF would instead represent voting agency? Yes. So 1 ADA 1 vote is, or 1 coin 1 vote is pretty much plutocratic voting, right? Frank has done extensive research on this, and there's a lot of research on this already. Proof of stake, right? How big is your bag? That's how much votes, voting power you have. And quadratic and plural voting addresses this because it combines both democratic and plutocratic voting together in order to level the playing field, while at the same time giving people with big bags voting power that's representatives to their, to how much they have. However, it doesn't let them empower the community and the majority vote if there are people that are really passionate, a lot of people that are really passionate about something, right? It addresses 2 things. I will also share the slides for the plural voting and identity for DAOs. You can see that in the second slide for this, it addresses the tyranny of the majority, which is majority tokens, pursue exclusively their objectives at the expense of minority factions. And it also addresses factional control problems that have been here ever since voting started, right? So essentially, it addresses that the most powerful factions will have control and make decisions based not only on the common good, not on the common good, but to benefit itself. Other groups and common good will both suffer. This is whether you have 1 coin, 1 vote, or 1 person, 1 vote. So quadratic plural voting is a happy medium that balances both, right? Whether it's majority of tokens or majority of voters. I hope that answers your questions. Ashton.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And our goal is to bring this to Catalyst one day, but Catalyst has to want it. There is a discussion on circle elections and so on. Used to be representative in the past. Now it's just going to be 1 coin, 1 vote instead of 1 wallet, 1 vote. And it's all because, 1 coin, 1 vote is Sybil attack resistant, but we are building a Sybil attack resistance for the quadratic voting. Right now, we have some, but it's very lightweight, and we want to make it super robust so that people, when they duplicate their wallets and split their coins into different wallets, ultimate expected voting power is lower than if they just voted with the original one wallet. So fully decentralized, open source, and available for the community to use, including Catalyst. Anybody has questions for Kian? No? Okay. All right, Kian, I'm gonna, do you have any comments? Or popcorn back to you.
I have some comments. Yes, I can elaborate on further on the issues with this model.
Go for it.
Do you want to add anything else, Ninh?
I wanted to show how crowdfunding works on the platform right now, whenever you're done, or if Frank wants to show something else.
Okay, all right. I continue with perhaps elaborating on what Ninh said earlier. Each of our voters are distinguished with their wallet addresses at the moment, which of course we are aware that is not very resistant to a cyber attack. And so the quadratic logic itself requires every information, every donation to be able to fairly distribute the funds. It needs to be how much each project has received funding by how many donors. These are all necessary information to perform the distribution. That's why this last transaction requires all the states of the script to be consumed. And if you think about it, the nature of this contract has a growing database. So whenever a project registers, that's an addition to the database of the contract. And whenever another donor contributes to a project, that's another addition to the project. So this database keeps growing. And one of the limitations of the Cardano is that each transaction needs to be at most, for example, at most 16 kilobytes, and that's not a very big number, and that's understandable. So there is a flaw in this model that if the sum of all these datums is bigger than this limitation, this transaction can never be built because it exceeds the maximum limit and the fund gets locked in there. To address this issue, we are proposing a different solution, and we are going to utilize the native tokens of Cardano to alleviate some of the load from the datum and go around this limitation of size limit in their transactions. In this model, the governance minting is still there. That's acceptable. But whenever someone tries to register a project, this registration means an authentication token that is going to that's going to go into a script address that is specific to that project and can be parameterized by the project's wallet address. To make the governing script aware of this project, instead of bloating its data, we are going to mint 2 of these authentication tokens, and one of them is going to be sent to the governing script. So with this approach, we're not this growing nature of the contract is not going to affect the datum size. And also, the governing script is going to delegate all the donation interactions with this specific project to a separate address specified to that project. So this governing script is not required to be involved in the donations of the projects. The only parts that it needs to be involved is the registration of the project. So it can be aware how many projects are there, so that at the distribution stage, it knows which UTXOs it has to consume. And as you can see, this blue project can keep living without the involvement of the governing script. And as another example, there's a second project here registered, and it can live on its own without the involvement of the this purple line. This other transaction that requires the involvement of the governing script is the contribution to the prize pool, because that's a prize pool independent of any other project. It's just there to be distributed at the final stage. And when we reach the distribution phase with this model, each project returns all the tokens associated to each vote that they have received, and basically those tokens are burnt and converted into the value that represents their right of the prize pool. So this value is just a summation of the square roots of each donation by a separate person. So if someone donates 10 ADA, they're going to be counted with the number 10. This is the core of the quadratic logic that favors the masses rather than wealth of an individual. So after they burn the tokens, they send the money that they have received into the governing script. And this is the part that the data of the governing script comes in, because when they burn their tokens, they convert that to value, and this value can be represented in the datum. So at the distribution phase, the governing script can utilize that information. Same happens for project A. So at this point, all the money is in the script address, and the script address knows when to end because it is aware of every project on the contract. So based on the numbers that it has accumulated and the money that it has, the key holder triggers the distribution transaction, and the prizes are distributed fairly. And we believe that this architecture is not limited to the size of the transaction, and an unlimited number of projects and donors can contribute to the funding round. With that, I finish my presentation and can take any questions.
I have a question, Kian. So the V1 will be deployed this Sunday or before the Sunday, right? Full disclosure, use at your own risk.
Well, then, as Kian mentioned, yeah, testing is of paramount importance. So, and not to get very hyper technical, but the members of the community that are aware of some of the issues on testnet, I think will understand that there's a couple moving pieces that need to be resolved pretty much across the pipeline for us to run our full system tests in a way that our team reaches consensus on, that we feel is proper for a kind of mainnet or production deployment, the equivalent of a production deployment, which would be like a mainnet availability for this. So that's happening literally every day. We meet in our workshops Monday through Saturday, and our team is sprinting pretty much around the clock because we have an international team. So our internal timeline is pretty much ASAP, So I think it's possible we can get there before next month then, but there are a couple nuances along the way that essentially, depending on the efficiency of us navigating these, then I think the outlook is optimal or optimistic that sooner than later is essentially the timeline here. It's ASAP.
So essentially, the message that we have is we will deploy the V1, the version 1, before end of the month. Keep our words. Use it at your own risk. We will be continually improving this quadratic voting and funding smart contract, and hopefully we'll update it as soon as possible. Is there an ask for the community to help us test and audit, Frank?
Yeah, without a doubt. Our team welcomes any community members on this call or who watch this video at a later point to join us in essentially, we're going to run multiple system tests in full. And this is on testnet, so it'll be with T-ADA. Just to, get a sense of how the user flows are currently in place, where we can progress from here in future versions. And then just to ensure that all distribution events, especially the distribution event here, is in alignment with the quadratic logic that we're proposing, which is it's a key component of the system. So we'd like to make sure that this is an experiment that can be repeated by community members, and that we can repeat with community members to build up confidence in accuracy and stability. And then we'll have the mainnet version for our first fund on Snapbrillia. So, and I do want to point out that what Ken was talking about with this proposed solution is actually very significant, because for the community members who went through PPP, or if you've studied the UTXO model, you can probably start to empathize and conceptualize about the potential hurdles in a quadratic voting system if you were architecting one. And this is the result of many, many hours of our team batting around ideas back and forth. And Kane is a brilliant engineer. And I think in conceptualizing creative solutions to constraints that you would see coming out of PPP, that's how I think innovation happens. And that's really our breakthrough, I think, with this architecture. Is this is a creative solution to a problem that would be faced by any team with the UTXO model, or the confines of such a UTXO model or multi-UTXO architecture for this type of business use case. So the fact that we've arrived at a model that can minimize the transaction load on a user, plus invite next to near unlimited donors, is actually really cool. There's a ton of nuance here to unpack, but yeah, I think that was really, really great presentation, Ken. And for the technical community members, I hope you guys appreciate some of the nuance here if you're following along in the diagram.
Awesome. Anybody else has something else to present on the team? Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Kian. Great job. Beatrice, Frank, anyone else? So let me wrap it up with one last screen share. So how does one go on Snapbrillia to create a grant? I think that is something that James already showed. You just go ahead and create a grant. But here, I want to show you guys how you can just simply add stuff to grant. I already added everything to grant, so I can remove stuff. Right, so go in, see what people are fundraising for, add stuff to grant. You can also connect your wallet or crypto wallet. You can select Pranami or Eternal, right? And simply just specify what is the amount that you want to donate to what project, and confirm and purchase, right? This is how you vote on Snapbrillia. Very simple. You vote with your wallet, right? You donate. It's a crowdfunding platform. And then on the back end, once we have the big sponsors for quadratic matching and funding grant, we would simply add extra money to that project. Anytime, any day, it's just like shopping on Amazon. So with that, thank you all for joining today. Appreciate your support. Okay, we are launching this in early access for the Catalyst community tomorrow, and officially on Friday. You heard it from the Web3 team. We would love to get your support to test and audit our smart contract. I put the links in the chat. If you are not a coder, please help me promote this. We're ready. We're ready for this. Ready to grow. If you are hiring or you have projects, please post a bounty. If you're looking to learn, or if you're a teacher or mentor, please go on and sign up as mentor for the bounties. And if you're new and learning, just sign up as a mentee and learn. That's it. Simple, straightforward. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. As always, thank you for your support.
Great work. All of you, great work.
Yep.
Thank you.
They've been working really, really hard. And I'll post this recording on Swarm as well for the whole rest of the community to watch.